Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Entitled Parents Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and click on notifications so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, an entitled dad steals a boat motor and is arrested. Here's what happens afterwards. I am a long-time lurker and this is my first post. Although kids were not involved in the story, Entitled Dad mentioned them during his testimony, so this story seemed like it may fit here. The cast is me, an overworked prosecutor, and an entitled dad. There have been cases in this forum that resulted in the entitled parent being arrested, and I thought there may be some interest as to what happens after the arrest. This happened many years ago when I was a deputy prosecutor handling misdemeanor cases. In this particular case, there was a street on a private beach with a series of houses in a remote area. There were other places that had public beach access, and this particular place was off the main road and not easily accessible. There was no reason to be there unless you were a resident of one of the houses or were visiting someone there. The entitled dad drove into the neighborhood and stole a boat motor from one of the properties. A neighbor watched him put the motor into his truck, got the license plate number, and called the police. A deputy responded and pulled him over a short time later. The deputy found the boat motor in the back of the truck, and the entitled dad admitted he took it. The entitled dad was cited for misdemeanor theft. He wasn't taken into custody but given a notice to appear in court. This was typical for a non-violent property offense. I then got the case. So I was minding my own business, working in my office, when the entitled dad called and demanded to speak with me. He then demanded that I dismiss the charge against him. He didn't really have a coherent reason as to why, since he pretty much had been caught red-handed. He mainly yelled and was obnoxious. Here's my first legal tip for everybody. Yelling at the prosecutor will not result in criminal charges going away, but it will result in having to deal with a cranky prosecutor. When he couldn't bully me into dismissing the charge, he then demanded that another prosecutor be assigned to his case. This did not happen. Legal tip number 2. People charged with crimes don't get to choose the prosecutors on their cases. The case is set for trial. He pleads not guilty and elects to represent himself. At trial, I call as witnesses the neighbor, the boat motor owner, and the arresting deputy. The entitled dad presents a beachcombing defense, that if he is able to keep a pretty shell he finds at the beach, he ought to be able to keep a boat motor. It didn't make a lot of sense. It really got interesting when he called himself as his own witness. He questioned himself by having a conversation with himself. Here is an example of how some of the actual testimony went. The entitled dad shifts to the left side of the witness chair. Mr. Blank, do you have a motive to steal a boat? Entitled dad then shifts to the right side of the witness chair and looks at empty space that he had just occupied. No, I do not have a motive to steal a boat. The entitled dad slides to the left. Mr. Blank, do you like seafood? The entitled dad slides right. No, I do not like seafood. My kids do not like seafood. My wife likes seafood, but that's not a motive to steal a boat. I looked over at the arresting deputy who was sitting next to me as my designated law enforcement representative. He was watching with a horrified expression, and I saw his lips silently form the words, "What the flip?" Later, when we were outside, the deputy told me how freaky he thought it was. It took the jury 15 minutes to find him guilty. I don't remember specifically what he got as a sentence, but it was likely only fines and community service, since that was typical for that type of offense. In story number 2, we have an entitled father who tries to break into a house to measure the bedroom. So this happened 3 years ago. I was renting a basement apartment that I loved. The landlords were great, aunt and uncle of my childhood friend, and I lived there for 3.5 years. Halfway through, they told me they wanted to sell the place, but probably not that soon since the husband was working on a commercial ship 9 months at a time. I just asked them to tell me when they decided to sell. Anyway, 13 to 14 months pass and they decide to start the process. They introduce me to the realtors, everything gets sorted out. Up to this point, everything is going great. Realtors give me 24 hours notice before they bring buyers. I can stay home during the showings or go about my business. I have no complaints about them or my landlords throughout the entire process. Then one day, I just got back from work and didn't feel like going out again. Realtors came with a family of 5 or 6. It was announced, I just forgot, so I decided to stay. Family consisted of mother, father, adult daughter, and 2 or 3 kids, can't remember. Father was a piece of work. Now the thing is, I lived in a touristy town on the Mediterranean coast. It was summer, people try to pull all sorts of cons here. I know you said someone lived here, but we hope to stay a couple of days to get the feel of the apartment. What? This place isn't for rent. The original poster already lives here. Well, I can't buy something just like that, but okay, obviously we can stay the night. Sorry, no, you can't. I live here. He moves on, measuring things left and right, wondering out loud if their large wardrobe will fit into the bedroom. He says how he wants to buy an apartment for his daughter because she wants to go to college here. Eventually, they pack up and leave for the beach. I saw them later. The beach was like 2 minutes away from the apartment. The next day, there were no scheduled showings, so I decided to do one thing everyone does when they live right next to the beach: take a nap after work. But before my head even hit the pillow, I hear someone coming down the stairs. There were only 2 basement apartments and my neighbors went away for the week. I get up and go for the door to spy, but before I even make it halfway there, someone rattles the doorknob and then, 10 seconds later, starts knocking. I was really confused and freaked out. I go to the door and lo and behold, it's entitled father from yesterday. I do not open my door. Who is it? It's me, entitled father. We were here yesterday. What do you want? I want to measure the space in the bedroom to see if my daughter's wardrobe will fit. No, you're not getting in. But I can't buy the place if I don't know. It's for my daughter. Then call the realtor. They have all the measurements on file. I'm not letting you in. I'll buy this place and evict you. Good luck. I have 3 months left on the lease. You can't do anything about that. My landlords told me that if the place sells before my lease is up, the contract will state that I can't be evicted before my lease is up. I already had a place lined up. The entitled father starts cussing out and I hear him go away. I called the landlords and the realtors after that. They were all mortified and worried someone like that just came to my place, tried to let himself in, and threatened to evict me. The entitled father did not buy the apartment after all, because the landlords refused to ever deal with him again. The realtors told him it was sold. To this day, I believe their plan was to find a place to crash at for a few days for a free vacation, under the pretext of buying the place for their daughter. I still had to improvise webcams around the apartment to keep an eye on it while I was at work for the remainder of my stay there. I spent the entire summer not feeling safe in my home. In story number 3, we have a boomer who tries to steal our OP's baby. I'm a 20-year-old female with a 3-month-old son. We took our son to the park for the first time. They have swings that are good for little babies, so we had him in there. He absolutely loved it, by the way. There was an older lady there with 3 kids. I'm assuming her grandchildren because they were pretty young, and she seemed my grandma's age. She was eyeing us up since the moment we got there. My fiancé is a smoker and he's not allowed anywhere near the baby while smoking, so he went to the baseball fields to sit and smoke. This is a decent ways away. Even though this is a very, very small town, I didn't know the woman as we didn't live in the town that we are currently at. We live in the biggest town in that county, but apparently the county's park didn't have swings, even though it's huge. But I was very familiar with this town as I lived here for many years when I was younger. I was just not familiar enough to know the people anymore. So my fiance was fine with leaving us alone. My step-grandparents also lived here, so I felt comfortable. After my fiance left to go over to the ballpark, this lady approached me and began talking to me. She asked me how I liked babysitting. I laughed and told her I wasn't babysitting, that this was my son. This set her off. She grabbed hold of my wrist and said, "Don't lie to me, you're too young for this to be your son, and I don't believe you." Then she told me if I didn't produce valid forms of identification for both of us, she would call the police for kidnapping. So here's my issue with that. I don't carry my wallet on me that often, and the only form of identification I have for my son is his insurance card, as his birth certificate and social security card have not come in yet due to everything being bogged down from the virus. I told the lady that and she said that's a lie because they give you documents at the hotel. They don't. It was escalated to the point where she shoves me down and tries to grab my son, saying she will be keeping a hold of him until the cops arrived. I quickly got up and grabbed my son from her. I didn't punch her, but I did sort of palm her nose, which I guess I did harder than I meant to as she started bleeding. She yelled at me that she was going to press charges for assault. My fiance was making his way back during this time and caught the tail end of the confrontation. Skipping ahead to when the cops show, they are talking to each of us, but the old lady won't stop screeching, so they take her farther away to talk. I am in complete fight mode and terrified. I'm frantically explaining that I don't have IDs, but this is my son. We just came here to the park to play. If there was any way I could prove I was the mother of my son, I showed him a photo of him being pulled from me C-section and him on my chest a few hours later. Obviously he looks different now, but you can tell it's the same baby. We were allowed to go home, and we were told we'd be hearing from someone about the assault and charges against the woman. Here's an update. We set an appointment with a lawyer for this Monday, and we'll be going to the police station later today. We called ahead and made an appointment for 3. It's noon currently. Someone had mentioned seeing if the park had cameras. I was pretty sure they didn't, as it's a very small area, but I called anyways, and it turns out they did. They agreed to send a copy of the footage to me, but they only have a couple cameras, so I'm not sure if what happened was caught on tape as the cameras are near the pavilion and the swings are off to the side. Update 2. We went to a lawyer on Monday who instructed us not to really talk about the case going forward, but there will be charges pressed against the woman and possibly against the police involved, as what they did during the situation was apparently very illegal. Hopefully this will move quickly and I can have an update soon. If not, I'll try and remember to update when everything's done. This has been John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then please hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.